Hello and welcome back to Mellohi, a Dream DSMP podcast. This is episode 6 and today we'll be talking about the new roommates, Purple getting more involved in the lore, and a conspiracy theory about Stone. As always, we'll mostly be referring to the characters by name and specifying when we're talking about the writers, and we're also more interested in analysing the characters, meaning we might get a bit critical of your personal favourite, so don't take it personally. Okay, so a good few things have happened since the last episode. I'd say the biggest is probably Techno getting stuck in Pandora's vault with Dream.
Roommates!
So that's probably the biggest recent event.
Yay! He has a friend now!
He's not alone!
They're still trapped in a hell box, but at least they're together.
They have each other.
They're not alone. That's all that matters to me.
Someone's finally visited who doesn't want to kill him or has said that they want to kill him. So that's good.
Baby steps. Baby steps.
I mean, I guess Bad didn't want to kill him. So that was a while ago.
Yeah.
And technically the egg didn't like him, so...
I mean, okay, wait, hold on. Other than Techno and Michael McChill, is there anyone on the server who's had a good relationship with Dream for, like, the majority of this time? Because I don't think there's a single other person on the server who's always gotten along with him. Because I don't think... Because, like, the least that Techno's gone along with him was when he was protecting Tommy. That was it.
I mean, like... He hasn't exactly had time to meet the new members of the servers in character, if you think about it.
I mean, he met Foolish. They've never really done anything antagonistic because they met like once.
Yeah, but even Foolish doesn't not like Dream, but he also doesn't like Dream, if that makes sense.
But he thinks Dream would do better with community service.
Yeah.
I think like their relationship is neutral just because they don't know enough about each other.
Yeah.
But Foolish seems to not be, like, biased by what he's heard from other people.
Yeah, and, cause...
Which makes sense with what we know of his backstory.
If you consider the amazing, character arc chart, Foolish is at the end of, presumably, Dream's character arc. So he'd understand, probably, what Dream is going through.
Right. I think the most, like, opinionated that Foolish has gotten wasn't really that, like... He thinks he's better than Dream in the fact that he doesn't think their situations are similar, which, I mean, clearly they are, but okay.
He has claimed he's going through his Dream arc, okay? I'll take it.
Oh, did he? Okay, well, never mind then, because the last time I had heard, he had just been like, no, I don't think that me and Dream are similar. Like, this isn't the same situation.
I think he definitely went in the arc of being like, oh no, me and Dream aren't alike at all. I'm just, having people come into my home
take my
and build up this country and insist that they have a right to like charge people to go there. I'm not like Dream at all. And then slowly I was like,
what are you doing?
Yeah, this is this is what my Dream are.
He has actively compared himself to Dream when talking to XD, so he's accepted it at this point.
Right, but so like there's that level of it, but I think like the most he's really thought about it is that Dream, it's not that he like dislikes or likes Dream. I feel like his entire mentality about the prison is just that it's kind of a waste, because like you just have this guy who's just sitting there when he could be doing something productive, and so he's just like, why can't I just have him come and work for me? I can just make him dig sand 24/7. It'll be great. Please give me someone to work.
I mean, he's not wrong, but also that is years and years better than what they actually have going on, and our standards are so low.
Oh, standards are so low.
Our like we're talking about like Foolish being good and stuff, and like that's basically, from what I understand, that is the American prison system, and it's like even that is better
than Pandora's box,
than what is currently there, and like
yeah,
American prison system is not good.
I say community service, but he would basically be Foolish's servant. But, like, that's so much better, because at least then...
It's better than torture.
It's better than being in solitary confinement. It's better than burning yourself in lava. It's better than only being fed potatoes, because obviously, if Dream's gonna work with Foolish, he needs to have the sprint, right? So he's gonna give him actual food.
At least it's... And it's also something, like, from a different standpoint. It's not just better for Dream, but I feel like it's... I know it would be just for Foolish, but I feel like it's also better for the server, because that means that he's not just sitting there, he's doing something productive that actively improves part of the server, even if it's just digging up sand for Foolish to make his summer home prettier. It's just more productive, and it's just like, why are we just leaving him there? That's such a waste.
It's sort of like, you ever get that thing, like, in, like, secondary school or high school or whatever you have wherever you live, where it's like you finish doing the work or whatever you're meant to do, and like you just expect to sit there and do nothing when you'd rather be like maybe drawing or reading something. But like, no, if you're not doing work, do nothing, which has always been something that's kind of infuriated me, because I do not like doing nothing. I like doing something at all times.
Yeah.
Oh, I was just gonna say, it's like, also, it's just like, him doing community service could be a way for him to improve upon himself, instead, because like, if you're just sitting in a box with no way to do anything, like, I guess the most that people could ask of him is for him to reflect on his actions, but honestly, has anyone really explained why he's in there?
This is just kind of going on to the point, like, this is actually like a part of Foolish's character, is the whole fact that he had this desire for control, but he channels it into his building, because that's something he can have complete control over, but without hurting anyone. So Dream working with Foolish would definitely like really help him with his own issues.
Yeah. And like, I feel if Dream was working with Foolish, they would end up talking, and Finding Joy has done this great, I think it's Finding Joy, I'm sorry, everybody's on the same Tumblr dash. But they mentioned something about how Foolish has listened to Tubbo's perspective. He has listened to Tommy's perspective. And I think there was someone else's perspective Quackity. He has listened to Quackity's perspective on the whole Lamamberg thing. So it would be a phenomenal, fantastic opportunity for Foolish to get Dream's perspective on everything. And it's just, he could talk, he could find out what was it like, what did Dream want, what was his story, because he's basically probably the most unbiased third-party person who's heard these stories, who's witnessed these, who hasn't witnessed these stories but has heard the perspective of everyone else, more or less. Even like in some other universe where I'm a Minecraft streamer and I got out of this, I definitely want to like have a character who's like maybe some kind of historian kind of character. She goes around asking people for like their point of view on events and just trying to like figure out what actually did happen, because I think that would be a really fun character to see. And it just kind of ties into what you're talking about Foolish listening to everyone's stories and sort of figuring out, like, forming his own opinion based on what he's heard, and sort of getting everyone's point of view.
That's kind of why I like Eric's Museum, because Eric's Museum it shows events in the way of it shows like different settings, and it shows like different areas and places of importance, and it doesn't have a ton of information just about like what people did, which I think is honestly a thing in its favor, because you know for a fact that if Eric was to try and like actually like write down the story of the DSMP, it would be biased as hell.
Oh god.
So it's just like, I'd rather have it so that it's just very factual in the fact that it shows like, this is the final control room, this is what the community house used to look like, this is what the egg looked like, this is a map of how the SMP has changed. That I feel like is a lot better.
Is that, I thought that was the actual egg, like is that the egg or is it like a model
It's a
of
model.
the egg? Because I don't think... Oh, well that's good, because it would be kind of terrible they're just keeping the egg in glass.
Yeah, it's a really pretty.
Yeah.
So I'm assuming it's still in the hole with the underground area. with obsidian around
I
it.
think so, but at the same time, I'm actually not sure because it sounded like Sam was saying
It will actually be a really cool twist if they'd actually move the egg and it's under Las Nevadas.
Yeah, well, it sounded like Sam was planning on moving it into a vault or like making a vault for it and wasn't planning on leaving it in that room down there, but I don't know if that was something that they like decided was something he could actually do and so they did move it, or if it's still down there.
It's still down there. Phil just went to mine some crime obsidian from it a couple days ago.
It's a crying obsidian farm. That's fantastic.
It is. It's a very slow one. He gave up and went to grab trade with piglins.
Okay, anyway, what we actually started this off with was Dream and Techno in prison together. I think one thing I kind of noticed is that there's almost this uncertainty that Techno is going to come back to break Dream out if he gets like teleported out by the Ender Pearl stasis chamber, but like he's asking for those plans, he's asking for everything Dream knows about the prison for a reason. There would be no reason if he wasn't coming back to break Dream out, you know?
Yeah, for sure.
I 100% think he's gonna break him out. No, I think Techno's I think Techno's 100% gonna break Dream out. Like, I don't think because everything he said makes it sound like he went there with the intention of knowing the fact that something was gonna happen to him and he wasn't just gonna.
He knew something was up.
So I seriously doubt that he would have acted. Yeah, I seriously doubt he would have acted that way if he didn't have some kind of plan for this to happen. And more than just that, he wouldn't have gone just to check on Dream if he knew something was gonna happen. Because, like, Techno owes Dream a favor, but Dream hasn't called that favor in. So it's not like Techno would just be like, yes, I'm going to go and check up on Dream. I know it's a trap, but I'm gonna do it anyway without the intention of being like, well, I'm gonna go there and I'm gonna have to do something about this prison. It's not just gonna be an information trek or for a fun visit. Like, he knows. He went into that knowing that he was gonna do something about the prison after this. And I highly believe it's that he's gonna try and break Dream out. And I really hope he does, because free my boy.
At a very minimum, he's gonna try and, like, take the prison down. And he might, like actively, even if he doesn't actively help Dream break out, he's gonna give him a great opportunity to, because his goal is gonna be to get rid of the prison. Or to in some way make it so it can't function. And either breaking Dream out or creating an opportunity that will let Dream break out is the perfect way to do that.
Oh yeah, I was so scared that I should never have doubted you, Techno, but I was so scared that he was just gonna view the trap as something Dream caused, because that was a possibility. But I should not have doubted the master, the god who never dies. I should not have doubted him.
He immediately knew what was up. Like, I don't even think he thought for a second that this was actually Dream, like, doing it. And then, the way that they played that scene of Techno going in and, like, Dream having his back to the thing, probably because he expected it to be Quackity or something like that, so he didn't want to look.
Or he didn't expect anyone at all.
Or that, but, like...
And then he turns around when Techno's halfway across the lava and starts shouting at him that it's a trap.
Yes!
Oh, God.
They care about each other.
They're friends.
They're very much in that sort of like, oh, we're totally not friends, even though we've both done stuff that could risk our lives for each other. Yeah, we're definitely not friends at all. Just business partners who had fun blowing up a country. No friendship here.
I don't even...
Bruh, Dream is like, I'ma stand up to my torturer who's been torturing me for 80 days to not do something that'll trap you. And then Techno's like, I'ma willingly walk into a trap that I know is gonna probably hurt me.
I don't think you can really make the argument that he just wanted Techno because he could use the favor, because from, like, I guess a more pragmatic viewpoint, having Techno get the message from Quackity still gets him to where like he's actually going to go and talk to Dream, and Dream can ask him for the favor, right?
That's true.
Puts him in a, like, it's a bit of a risk, but still would objectively put him in a better situation than if Techno didn't come at all. So you can't, in my opinion at least, you can't really make the argument that he just did it so that Techno could potentially maybe break him out in the future, because getting him to come to the prison is the best way of doing that, even if it is a trap.
But there's something about Dream not wanting to write the letter because he didn't know what Quackity was planning, despite knowing that no one aside from Quackity is gonna know he tried to stand up to Quackity. He did it without thinking about his image of in other people's eyes. He did it without thinking about how Techno would see him. And I think that's like, when people do stuff that they don't think other people will see, they're being honest, that's a moment where, or for characters at least, that's a moment where you can sort of almost trust that they're not trying to put on a persona for whatever person that they're trying to put on a persona for. Of course, Quackity's also in the room, so we can't really say if it's 100% or not what kind of character he is, but it does say something.
Hey there, folks. I know you missed me last week, but I'm back again with a weekly Mellohi Spotlight. Each episode, we want to highlight a content creator from the Dream SMP community, whether that be an animator, a fan artist, a writer, or an analyst. We know that a big part of what makes this community so unique is how many talented individuals we have in it who really flesh out the world of the Dream SMP with their amazing work. This week, we're taking a look at another animator, Skachu. So far, Skachu has made 4 different animations on their YouTube channel that are honestly kind of refreshing because they heavily feature characters that I haven't seen a lot of animatics around for. Specifically, Jack Manifold, Quackity during Pogtopia, and a bit of Fundy and Nikki as well. I particularly enjoyed their Jack Manifold animatics because Skachu does a great job of pumping really strong emotions into the characters' faces and movements that intensify the scenes. They also use color in a very simple way, but it adds a lot of emphasis and cool dynamics to the frames. Plus, their Fundy and Nikki scenes and designs are just really flippin' cool, and I'm a simp for Nikki. You can check them out on YouTube, spelled Skatchuu. Now, back to the episode.
Okay, so Techno isn't the only one who's had lore recently. We've had a lot more lore, and we had purple lore, which is great. Because like I've talked before on this podcast about purple lore, and now I'm like eager to see where he takes it. And I think it's great that Quackity's lore is giving an opportunity for people who haven't really done lore before, or people who sort of took a break from the lore. It gives them this opportunity to get involved in a way that would be really hard before.
Yeah, the irony of people who haven't done a lot of lore also being perfect targets for manipulation.
Oh yeah, like both Fundy and Purple were like living in a wooden house by themselves with only a pet for company until someone from Las Nevadas shows up, and then they end up working there. I think it's funny that's the same situation for each.
I feel like Fundy's getting more blatantly manipulated than Purple is, because Purple clearly doesn't like or trust Quackity. Like, there's a... He's not falling into Quackity's whole trap of, like, I'm your friend like Fundy is. It's just more of the fact that Purple realizes that Las Nevadas is going to be something. And getting his UFO blown up and thinking about his time on the SMP has made Purple basically be like, you know what? I want my name out there. I don't want to be just the guy that made the UFO that's not even there anymore. I want to be remembered.
And again, like, I have a theory that he is going to end up turning on Quackity for his own profit, for revenge, but I do think he's going to end up going against Quackity at some point. At least, like, that's what I'm seeing. And like I've talked about it before, that I think last episode I also mentioned having that theory.
Oh god, do you guys think... So this would be such a plot twist, but if instead Fundy is the one who ends up turning on Quackity, and Purple ends up being the most loyal.
Oh yeah, that could also work because it's always interesting to see arcs where characters start out like really disliking someone or being against them, and then slowly
switching sides.
Their mind changes and they change sides, and that would be
Yeah.
really interesting to see with Purple's character. But then you've also got Wendy's character, who's kind of been defined by the fact that he tends to go along with authority to kind of get validation. So it'd be really interesting to see him develop by going against Quackity and sort of becoming his own person more than he was before.
It could also be a nice...
For sure.
It could be an interesting... it could end up being an interesting parallel to sort of the Wilbur-Tommy dream situation as well when you think about it, because that's sort of a similar arc, and that Tommy believed Wilbur and followed along with pretty much everything he says, just like Fundy's willing to do with Quackity. But then as time passed, he realized more and more that Wilbur's a manipulative asshole, and while he still falls for some of the same old tricks, he's not going to just trust everything that Wilbur does. Whereas Dream, who was originally very much opposed to Wilbur, slowly over time became more and more convinced that Wilbur knows what's best to some extent, especially with like the prison stuff lately. Like, Dream's very insistent on the idea that, like, Wilbur's gonna save him, because Wilbur's gonna owe him, and that Wilbur's amazing and great and always has been, even if they didn't really like each other. And so it'd be an interesting sort of reflection back to that. Which, honestly, I think Los Nevadas is just an interesting reflection back to the beginning of the SMP, because, like, even with some of the content that's coming out around it, not necessarily just the Los Nevadas crew, but like with Tubbo making the outpost outside of it, a lot of it reminds me of those early SMP days with the conflict with Manberg and people just kind of doing casual lore again. And it's really, really nice. The only issue being that they're all small. They're not, I shouldn't say smaller, but they're all the CCs that aren't like used to being involved in the main lore. Like Purple hasn't ever been like not that there's really any main characters.
Like I was saying, I think it kind of acts as a good way for people to get interest in lore. And like I was saying before, like now that Purple has done like a proper lore stream, it's like definitely like what I was thinking, where he was doing short bits in other people's streams to sort of get more confidence in his acting before he did his own lore streams. So I guess my guess on that was right.
Right.
Yeah.
And Fundy kind of took a bit of a break from lore.
Yeah, he did.
After Doomsday. And he only did like a few fragments until he started up his whole dream lore. Well, like lore where he dreams of the future. Yeah. And when the character's name is a verb. Well, no, not a verb, a noun. That can also be... I am bad at words.
It's fine.
You're all good.
We're all kind of bad at words, let's be honest.
And like from that first stream, he was connected with Quackity's arc. So...
Oh yeah, for sure.
I think it definitely acts as a way for people who were sort of taking a break from the lore or are new to it to have an opportunity to build up a character and go through an arc through interacting with Quackity's arc, and then in turn they help him by giving him more characters to interact with and to, like, form new dynamics with, like Quackity and Slimecicle's character, who does not have a proper name yet. I think he's just being done by Slime.
To and Meat.
I think
to
Slime is the most. I'm just gonna call him Slime because that seems to be the most consistent name for him at the moment that's being used in canon.
Just call him Slime.
Yeah. So Slime and Quackity have this whole fun dynamic where on one hand, Quackity is absolutely taking advantage of him, but on the other hand, he does seem to genuinely be starting to care about Slime. But on the other hand, Slime is like 1,000-year-old
7
eldest
billion
being
years
who
old.
is incredibly occupied with the idea of things turning to dust, which I can admire that, fellow enjoyer of entropy.
I mean, if you think about it, he's like been here for millions and millions of years, and everything you see has just turned to dust.
Yeah, it makes sense.
So,
I mean, if I was that old. I think that's a similar thing with Phil's character, right? Because Phil's has been around for a really long time, so he kind of also has this view of like, well, people will get over it. Like, that was his sort of attitude towards everyone who lived in L'Manberg when he blew it up, was just like, it's for the best.
I think honestly he has this very, in my eyes, this very sensible idea of you can make new stuff, you can build new buildings, but you can't get back people.
Yeah.
Right.
So it's worth it to get rid of L'Manberg because people can always rebuild, but it stops what Doomsday, in his eyes at least, stopped harm being done to people. And not just in the sense of people dying, but in the sense of basically being corrupted by power. About how Tubbo, even when he was doing his best, reminder, I am a Tubbo apologist, he was still being forced to make these really difficult decisions and harming other people through that. So it's sort of another example of how, you can't replace people, essentially.
Yeah.
But, back to Slimesicle. So, Slime, when Quackity asked him if Quackity is gonna turn to dust eventually too, he just pauses and he goes, I'll never let Quackity from Las Nevadas turn to dust. And I'm just like, oh, he's attached. Quackity, you have this ancient primordial being who has just claimed he was never going to let you disappear. Ever. And it's also the fact Do you understand?
That Slime put like some of his slime in Fundy and can apparently control him through it. So obviously, like in the stream, that was a bit, but like I'm really curious now if they're gonna do anything with that in the future lore. Like maybe Slime is able to like spy on people and spy through Fundy. Like I think that would be an interesting direction to take it.
I don't know if he can, like, he's mentioned the hive mind is inconsistent though, so. But it reacts, and Fundy can feel it.
I do love the idea of that people are making of Charlie being able to basically shapeshift to look like other people, and since he's just been around for so long and seemingly just traveled across the SMP and knows a bunch of about random people, but seems to have no grasp of like what is socially acceptable behavior around humans. I love the people who are coming up with the idea of him just like transforming into people that completely set off
it's
other
a great
people.
Source.
Like turning into Wilburns.
It's a great source of both crack and angst.
Yeah, it'd be hilarious, but also you could take it to be so dark, and it's like, oh boy.
Do you think Charlie's? It's possible that Charlie's been around for a very long time, but he wasn't like aware completely. Like he hadn't gained sentience. Is that the word?
Yeah.
Until somewhat recently. So he has all these memories, but he wasn't like
watching and listening. I think is the best description of what he was doing. He was just experiencing, but not processing. And now he's sort of developed, and now he can process all that information he absorbed, but he still doesn't really understand it because he hasn't fully absorbed it all and understood it. So that's where he'll just randomly say things like start talking about the discs, for instance, because he's just processed that thing that he experienced.
Yeah.
And he doesn't really understand it yet because of that.
Like the comment of, we're gonna go to war, is something he's heard someone say in relation to people about to fight each other, and then he remembers the other phrase connected to it, the thing about the disc, which is probably where you heard the first phrase from. So, like, he talks about... Actually, now that I think about it, when you look back on what he said and how he's interacted with people, when people say something, and then he'll make a comment that's seemingly inconspicuous comment, but it's related to whatever the person says, but it's one of the things that he's seen while he hasn't been quote-unquote around. Like the whole, but Fundy, your father loves fish.
But yeah, I think we've talked about before the fact that he's a non-human character that's very explicitly non-human, and that has a significant impact on how he acts, which makes him really unique compared to the other characters.
Yeah.
speaking of, and Genderman Rambu does not know what gender pronouns
A lot
are.
of people who really want to see the Rambu, Charlie Slimesicle character crossover and see how that goes. And I think it'd be really interesting because Rambu isn't human, probably. We don't know if he's partially human, but I'm going to say no. But he's lived in human society.
I think he's canonically half Enderman, and I'm pretty sure he's confirmed that the other half isn't human because he said, like, way back in, like, December, I think, he said that he's hinted at what the other side is.
Yeah. I don't think it's human. From what little we know, he said it was, like, it's something, like, extremely specific, which is why, like, he said at one point anyways that he had never seen a theory that had it right. Like, he had seen things that were kind of right, but it's just such a weirdly specific thing that he's made the other half that it's almost impossible for someone to get it right until he reveals more stuff about it. So he's not human, but he's at least been raised around humans or something close enough for a lot longer than, like, Charlie has. But even then, there's, like, aspects of humanity that he just completely still has yet to grasp, like the fact of
I think probably the best way to describe it is more just a cultural difference.
Yeah.
Because, like, in real life, there are plenty of cultures that don't have, gendered pronouns.
Yeah, that's a better way to
So, it's definitely, I think, it's less about his species and more about him coming from a slightly different culture than the other people, like the other characters. While Slimesicle, objectively, he does come from the same culture as everyone else because he's been watching them, but the fact that he's this different species means his experience of those events was fundamentally different. And I know, I really like, I guess the best way to phrase it is maybe like inhumanity narratives, where a character is very much non-human in a way that impacts how they experience the world around them and how they interact with it. And, like, in a way that where it's very clear that they are still very much a person, they're just a different type of person. And those kind of stories was very interesting for me, and, like, I enjoy them a lot.
But recent Rambo lore has him talking to the council, which I have my suspicions on what the council actually is. Has him talking to the council about him needing to be more active again in events because stuff is starting to happen, and him getting an axe called Axe of the End that is Unbreaking, Mending, and Sharpness 5. It is an axe that is 100% completely designed for fighting and killing. It is not a tool, it is a weapon.
Yes.
Like, he already has a combat axe, but that axe has efficiency on it, which means he can use it for other things. But this axe is just pure fighting axe.
Yeah.
Makes you wonder what he did when he was more active on this.
I think one of the things about that sort of stood out to me when I first saw it was the fact that the note mentions friends that he might, like, need to stand up to protect, but it doesn't specify, like, it doesn't say who. And with what we know of Ender walking Randu, there's a good chance that might actually be talking about not, like, Tubbo or whoever, or Tommy or whoever, and people who are his friends, but also Dream and Techno, especially since, you know, Endermen can teleport, might know something more about what's going on in the prison than people might think.
Hey Rambo, can you teleport yet? I don't think so. Can you try? Nope, sorry. Asking for a friend. Chat interactions, my beloved. But yeah.
I feel like the book is probably in reference to Tubbo, because I think that was the stream immediately after, you know, Los Nevadas went and messed up Tubbo's outpost to see what his reaction would be.
I mean, maybe it could be, like, it could be both, because he does have a good few friends who could be in danger right now. Like I said, like it was also shortly after Techno's stream, so that could be.
Yeah, and interesting. He cleans up the place and then leaves a sign that says "or violence will be used."
That was terrifying.
And he goes
I loved
quiet.
it. He cut the music. He went dead silent, and then he just writes "or violence will be used." And I was just like, Rambo, you are intimidating when you want to be.
It was phenomenal.
Like honestly, like I'm hoping that when Ender Walking Ranbu comes into more focus, we will see more intimidating Ranbu, because that's always fun.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Like, you know, like that one Fundy stream where he's like messing around with Ranbu's house, and Ranbu logs on and he puts on like some signs down, but then the moment Fundy comes in, and Ranbu logs on and is just staring right at him, and then his computer crashes.
That was honestly amazing.
And it's just
that was amazing.
And it's like a complete coincidence that it happened right at that moment, but everyone was just like, Lore? Is this Lore? Was that Andy? Did Ron knock out Fundy? Yeah. And no, it was just his computer happened to crash at the most fortunate moment possible.
It was amazing. Rambu, my beloved.
From what we've seen of Enderbu's sort of sense of humor, it reminds me a lot of Dream XD in a way, but not as severe, where it's not like he's trying to like his sense of humor isn't necessarily like, I'm going to send this person to hell for a laugh, but it is sort of,
it's more like I'm gonna be absolutely confused the hell, like it's more about scaring people.
It's about
psychologically.
Yeah, it's about Ranboozling people. He wants to
and intimidation. Yeah. It's also about like intimidating someone.
It's about being scary
rather than
not like outright action.
Harmful.
Yeah. I have a theory about the council actually, because it's just come to my attention. Like we literally took Rambu putting up a mailbox in a little hole and saying this is where the council will leave our stuff, and him going and talking to the council, and we took it as straight up fact that the people that the person or the people that have been writing in his book is from the council. But what if it's actually Enderbu?
It's definitely a possibility, because we know that he hasn't been afraid to write stuff in the font that he uses for Ender before, so he could have always just written it in the book and maybe read it and the English version out loud, and that people translate the Ender version themselves.
Yeah. It is interesting that the books are written in English, because you imagine if it was actually the Enderman, they'd be writing it in Ender. And like you said, Rambu would just read it in English as if it was written that way. But he doesn't do that, which I feel like the Enderman and the council and stuff are responsible for some of the information coming from that, because it's not like Rambu's just always around. But it does feel like it's not just coming straight from the council. It could be
like Enderwalk Rambu talking to the council and writing down what they're telling him and putting that in the box.
That's sort of the impression I got, as far as if Enderbu is involved, then I think it's definitely because he's working with the council and then translating that on to give it to awake Rambu.
and the thing is though, like, I think there's only been 2 letters that have been delivered, right?
I think so, yeah.
2, I think.
The first letter comes with a gift.
Yes.
A golden apple, a god apple. Something that Rambu has been trying very hard to find and hasn't had too much luck in. He's only got 2. And now 3. But another thing is, so the first time is a gift, and the second time is a weapon with a request to be more active.
Yes.
So it makes me feel like the first time was either the council or Enderbu trying to gain Rambu's trust, of being, hey, we're helpful, we're on your side, this is good. And then the second is, but we need you to do this because you need to do this. Trying to convince him to do that by having already given him a gift beforehand.
Yeah. I can't decide if the second letter in the gift are a warning or if it's like a I can't decide if it's them telling him that he has to do this, or if it's more of them like listen, if you want to protect your friends, we know you don't like violence, but if you want to protect your friends, then you're gonna have to start doing things soon. So here's something to help you with that. I can't decide if it's more of a warning of being like, things are about to get bad. Here's this, because you're gonna have to do something eventually if you want to protect people, or if it's here's a weapon, you need to do this. Go after
it could be either, because on one hand there's definitely like more danger with Los Nevadas that the council could have seen, but there's also the fact that Ronby just does not have any backbone. So they might have just gone, okay, if this guy ever has to fight, he's probably not got the backbone to do it. Let's just give him a bit of encouragement.
Yeah, like if it was actually Enderbu, then I would say it's him trying to get Awake Rambo to be more active again.
Right.
Well, maybe not again, but like just be more active so it helps with his own plans. But if it's the council, then it's probably more of a word of warning.
I'm like 80% confident what's gonna happen is that Techno's gonna destroy the prison, which means Dream's going to get out, and then Rambu's gonna obviously freak out, as Rambu always does, and that's gonna be his sort of awakening to head back to the lab and finally put into work the the experiment or whatever. And that's gonna sort of wake up Enderbu, and Enderbu's gonna immediately be like, yes, my bro, he's free! I can finally have someone to work with that actually understands my goals. It's just, that's like my current theory for what's gonna end up happening with Rambu, but there's so much that could happen. There's just so much that could happen, guys. There's so much lore, there's so much potential lore. We still don't know what Wilbur's doing. Los Nevadas is increasing in size and working on stuff.
Oh wait, here's something I actually want to talk about. I want to talk about the stone theory.
The stone theory?
Yeah, you know Apple's one. Apple
the
and
stone
Bluebells.
theory. Puns.
Yes, okay.
Okay, so basically this theory is centered around the fact that various characters associated with Dream have been seen collecting stone for an unknown reason. The first being Enderwalking Ronbill, who was mining an unidentified object using Silk Touch Pick, and also at one point, Ronbill, when he was doing one of his I feel like I have to do this thing but I'm not sure why things, that I actually
I feel like I need to get more coal.
Right.
Yeah. Getting stone for a project. And then finally, recently, Pun started digging out a chunk and specifically using, like, even pointing out that he's using a Silk Touch pick. And that's not finally, because that's the second one. Why did I say finally? That's just more recently.
Yeah.
And also when Foolish comes and asks him if he can take some of the stone or if Puns needs it, he says that he does need it.
Yeah.
And then the actual final one is Wilbur trying to get Tommy to collect stone for him again for an unknown reason.
Yep.
So the theory is basically there is something going on. We have no idea what it is. There are very few things you can build with stone, and none of them seem especially useful. But for some reason, these three people have been collecting stone, and we have no idea why.
On the one hand, it feels almost like a conspiracy theory because, like, it's just it is a little weird,
It's
but
like,
also how
it sounds so crazy, but also there's so much evidence for it that there is something up.
Like, at the very least, it's like a weird coincidence, and maybe it's just that they're all collecting stone for something that's not necessarily in lore, or like not necessarily something their characters are doing, but it's like how I think for a while Rambu was going into the Nether and mining quartz, which I'm assuming went into Las Nevadas because the casino's made out of quartz.
Mm-hmm.
So like it could just be something like
Actually,
that, but
I think
But we
the
haven't
mining
really
quartz was to
seen-
recharge his pickaxes because Awake Rambu's been noticing him using up the durability on his pickaxes, so he has to like cover it up, right?
Yeah, that could also be it, maybe.
I think part of the thing is we haven't seen any builds that specifically use large amounts of stone.
Yeah.
Or smooth stone.
And the fact that the specific group of people are people associated with Dream's character, when other people who have done building like out of character before, like Foolish, haven't been seen collecting stone, you know?
Right.
So that's what makes it especially suspicious.
It's definitely weird that it's those three. And then when Wilbur finally came back and did his lore stream and Tommy was like, well, look, I got all this stone for you. And the Wilbur's like, I'm gonna be honest, I don't actually need it. And then it's just like, what? What do you mean?
Yeah, like, he never said what he needs it for, and then he uses it to build his whole pseudo Lemanberg too.
And it feels like he was... I can't decide if it was like a genuine thing where he was just like, he told Tommy that he needed stone because it was the way to get Tommy to work for him again. You know, because that could have been it, because that he kept telling Tommy he needed stone, and then he uses the stone and sort of some reverse psychology to get Tommy to basically work for him again. So it could be something
I don't know.
like that, but also
It's gonna be so cool though if it ends up actually being a thing, and then everyone who talked about the theory can be just like, we told you. This is like me predicting Ranbu and Dream working together like way back because of similar ideals way back in late December.
right. It would be really interesting if it does end up like coming to fruition, or like the stone theory actually came up to something, because I actually do like the idea of it.
Because like I say, we have what could they even be doing with all that stone, because there's really not many things you can craft with it.
I think,
and there's also like not really much stuff you can build with it. It's a very basic.
It's one of the most common blocks in the game.
Why would you need that much?
Yeah, that you have three different people gathering it for you. And I think someone in one of the group chats said that they thought maybe it could be for something to do with like redstone components, because I guess stone gets used in.
But again, like, why would you want
plates.
that much?
Yeah, so yeah, it's like pressure plates, buttons, I don't think repeaters, but something like that. It's like it needs a bunch of stone, but also if you need that much stone, how many of these things do you need, and why do you need them? Like, it just doesn't make it doesn't feel like there's anything that could require that much stone, that you have that many people working on it. And like it could just be people getting stone for no reason, but it's a lot more fun to theorize and sound like conspiracy theorists.
Like maybe it's a build that uses like a lot of stone bricks and stuff. Maybe it's something like getting like I don't know, getting what are they called, the underground places where you find end portals. What are those called again?
Strongholds,
yeah. So like making like rebuilding a stronghold or something.
Maybe
That maybe could require that much stone.
maybe. Obligatory Punk mention.
Punk.
Oh yeah, he's been doing.
Yeah, there's been some recent developments of Punk lore as well. Puffy has responded, and Punk has seen her response. Punk and Sam have also talked to each other, and Punk understands that all the bad stuff Sam's been doing is gonna catch up to him eventually. Sam
Also, he
does not
threw out
understand
his
that he's been doing
arm.
bad stuff.
I think I'm a
His
good
little
person, Sam says to the
mangle.
man whose arm he cut off for
Yeah,
stolen keycards that don't matter.
There is very much a thing with Sam's character where he believes that good people can't do bad things and that only bad people can do bad things. So he sees himself as a good person because he's done good things, and because he's done good things, and because the bad things he's done have been justified in his eyes, he can't be a bad person And also it's the reverse, like when someone goes against what he thinks, or there's someone he thinks of as being bad or evil, he will just completely see them as irredeemable, basically. And that all their actions are just selfish or for attention or to harm others.
Yeah.
Very much like a certain portion of the fandom.
Yeah. Like Puppy thinks in black and whites as well, but Sam does it in complete absolutes.
Sam has some really...
He does not see how fucking hypocritical his character is. Well, Character Sam does not see how fucking hypocritical he is.
Yeah, he doesn't. He thinks he's doing... And I feel like part of it is that it's his own brain trying to protect himself from realizing, you know what? I'm a terrible person, but like...
Yeah, sure. So the thing is, so with Sam, that kind of thinking, that means he will feel justified in doing anything. Even the worst, most heinous crimes on earth, he will feel justified in doing it, and he will believe that he is right in doing it. And that makes him a very scary character.
Sam is a terrifying character. It's so interesting that the reason, I believe, canonically, that Dream chose him to be the warden, not just because he's, good at redstone and stuff, but the reason he chose Sam to be the warden is because he thought Sam would be the most reasonable, like he'd be the most fair and just. The problem is that, Sam is just, but it's according to his own sense of justice, and that has become so skewed by everything he lets happen in there that at this point it's not justice anymore. It's just horrid. It's just horrid. Sam, go to therapy.
Absolutely horrid.
But yeah, I think we covered most of the stuff that's happened recently. Stuff's probably going to be ramping up sometime in the next week or two, which is cool. And
more content.
Continuous ramping up, like it hasn't been ramping up already.
The lore is gonna get more intense, and we're all gonna cry over it.
Well, thanks for listening to the 6th episode of Mellohi, and we hope you enjoyed it. You can also find us on Twitter at Mellohi Podcast, where you can ask us questions, suggest future topics, or just get updates about new episodes. See you next time!